Good afternoon. I'm Andy Dailey, the Director of Uptown International School, and with me is
Nesma Hassan, the PYP Coordinator Designate.
So we have just come online. Sorry, we had a couple of minutes delay there. We'll talk about that in a little bit, actually. So if you have any questions about anything about Uptown International School or IB programs, or the topic of our conversation today, which are the challenges facing school, national education, especially in this time period of the coronavirus. So if you have any questions, you may ask those of us, and here on Facebook Live or through Zoom. So we're happy to have any type of question from you. So I think we're all aware that we are in the period of the coronavirus, and as a result of that, schools are facing some real challenges, including our school. And as all schools right now are under the Ministry of Education, have been ordered to do online teaching and teach through projects and things of this nature. So if ordered to do so, our school, of course, will comply with that order. And in many schools, this online teaching has taken place in many forms. Generally, what you have is a teacher who is either online the full time, the full day, teaching some sort of grade level or classes. And so, do you mind moving over here because it's distracting me a bit? Sorry, it's not you, it's me. I'm mentally ill. To make a long story short, so sometimes the teacher's online the full time. Another time the teacher comes in and out every day. In some cases, there are other teachers coming in as well and teaching a whole lesson. So if you have experience with that as a parent and have questions about our approach, by all means at any time, send us a question. So for next school year, we anticipate that we will have some periods, greater, smaller, no one knows, that will be taught online, and we hope to have significant periods where we're able to teach the kids in person. Nothing would make me happier than that. I will also say that most schools, and certainly all teachers, prefer having kids face-to-face in the classroom somewhere in the school as opposed to at home. And again, schools don't have any choice in this matter. No one is teaching online to save money, for example, or anything else. What we do is we do it because it's safe, not safe to be face-to-face. And of course, we have to follow the ministry requirements as they dictate. So what we can say about Uptown International School and online teaching is that we have a lot of experience in online teaching. Our head of primary is Marie Rayburn. She is from Australia. She's taught in Tanzania, China, and now Mongolia as a head of primary and PYP coordinator. And her school, the one she's in now in Mongolia, has been doing online teaching since the middle of January. So they have a great experience. She's bringing that to us. I'm aware right now I'm talking a lot, and Nesma has not had a chance to translate, and I'm very sorry for that. So that's okay. Let's talk about that in Arabic, and then we'll come back and talk about some specifics about what online teaching looks like.
هو مستر إندي كان بيقول عشان بالنسبة للوقت اللي احنا فيه وظروف وجود كورونا، ففي توقعات إدارة التربية والتعليم تقول حتى السنة الجاية إن يبقى في تعلم عن بعد. واحنا مؤمنين ان التعلم عن بعد بيبقى فيه اشكال كتيره، واكيد بيختلف حسب المدرسه. في مدارس بتخلي المدرس يبقى متواجد طول الوقت اونلاين او الكترونيا. في مدارس تانية بيبقى المدرس موجود في اوقات واوقات تانية لا، وساعات بتبقى حتى حسب الايام. فاحنا بنتوقع حتى ان السنه الجايه ممكن يكون في اوقات ان احنا هنضطر فيها ان يكون في تعلم عن بعد. الوقت ده هيكون طويل او قصير، دي حاجه محدش يقدر يقولها او يحددها او يعرفها. بس احنا برضو بنأكد ان احنا كمدرسه واي مدرسه اكيد واي مدرس بيفضل التعلم عن طريق الوجه لوجه يعني داخل المدرسه، ومش بيفضل التعلم الالكتروني اكيد. وده اكيد مش يعني ما فيش حد بيبقى حابب التعلم عن بعد. هو في ناس بتتخيل ان ده بيوفر فلوس او نفقات، بس بالعكس هو متعب اكتر، وهو الهدف منه ان احنا نحمي الاطفال ويبقوا هم في امان. احنا كمدرسه عندنا خبره في التعلم عن بعد، بتتمثل على الاقل حتى في مس ماري، هي البي واي بي هيد، وهي عندها خبره طويله في تنزانيا وفي الصين وفي منغوليا. ودلوقتي كان المدرسه دلوقتي في منغوليا من نص يناير وهم بيطبقوا التعليم عن بعد، فهي عندها خبره قريبه كمان في التعلم عن بعد والتعلم عن بعد.
So all IB schools have a platform from which they organize their information, whether that be curriculum, assessment reports, whatever. Our program is called TODDLE, T-O-D-D-L-E. It's an online platform established by IB PYP teachers. So we will be using that, and TODDLE supports online teaching. So what your students will do is log into TODDLE, or you would log in yourself, and then the day class will be presented, what's going to happen when, which links click for information, or which links click for a video for the teacher, a link to talk to the teacher live during whatever time period is set. So the day schedule will be on TODDLE, and links for information and links to video live and recorded will be hosted on TODDLE. See, I'm pausing now for not for dramatic effect, but for translation.
طيب هو كل المدارس بتستخدم برامج منها البرامج اللي بتستخدم للتواصل ما بين المدرسة وما بين أولياء الأمور، وفي برامج فيها جزء التقارير ومشاركة التقارير التعليمية مع أولياء الأمور. هي احنا هنستخدم برنامج اسمه تودل، وده بيتم من خلاله القيام بالتعلم عن بعد، سواء من خلال وجود الجدول اليومي للدروس أو تقديم الدروس وتسجيلها عن طريق البرنامج ده، أو حتى وجود المواقع اللي ممكن الأطفال أو الطلبة يستعملوها علشان يتم التعليم عن بعد.
So the morning, for example, let's say it's grade 1, the day schedule will be posted on TODDLE, and it will be school starts as normal. So we have a normal start of school, so the kids come online, in the case that we're using online teaching, check in so we can take attendance, make sure everyone's present, and then we will give the day's layout. So today, the first 15 minutes, we're going to talk about today's lessons and activities. And at 9:30, you'll have your P lesson. At 10:20, you will refresh the lesson. So this gives you an idea of that. So the program will be 15 or 20 minutes. The kids will be broken into either groups or work as individuals, or even work as a whole class through online instruction. And the teacher may check with individual students through Zoom. Hi, Mohammed, how are you doing? Do you understand the lessons and are working on the task? The teacher will probably reconvene an hour or two later so they can discuss what they've learned, where they are, and then come back online an hour or two later to have another set of instructions for the next part of the teacher is online the full time. They are online to give instruction. Then they pull away and meet individually with kids in the class, and then come a little bit later and do more or less the same thing. So your kids are still getting that individualized instruction, but also the group conversation discussion. Through Zoom, kids can gather ability, but they have the ability to work together in teams of 2, 3, or 4 online as well.
لو في جدول يومي ايه بالظبط الانشطه اللي هتبقى موجوده وايه الحصص اللي تبقى موجودة ومواعيدها. وهيبتدي يشرح ايه هي النشاط ده، وبعدين هيتقسم طلبة لمجموعات، او لو كل طفل هيشتغل لوحده او كفصل كامل، وهيبتدوا ان هم يشتغلوا على الانشطه مع بعض، والمدرس هيدخل كل فتره علشان يتاكد ان الطلبه بتتفاعل مظبوط وان هم بيوصلوا للمفاهيم اللي المفروض يوصلوا لها من خلال الانشطه.
So the teacher is teaching, giving discussion and leading those discussions, but at the same time evaluating students. And so we have something we talked about the last session, and that's formative assessment. And that is gathering an idea through observation, through collecting evidence of what the students are able to do and to make sure that we're meeting their needs. And so if a student is struggling with a task, the teacher will notice that and modify the task so the student can understand the concept and then move forward.
من خلال التعلم عن بعد زي الحصص العادية، المدرس بيدرس، بيناقش، بيقيم الطلبة من خلال الأنشطة اللي بيقوموا بيها. وسرقندي كان ذكر التقييم التكويني وازاي هو بيتم عن طريق الملاحظة وجمع الأدلة خلال الأنشطة اللي الطلبة بيقوموا بيها ومن خلال تفاعلهم في الأنشطة دي، والتأكد من إن كل طالب واصل لمفاهيم معينة من خلال النشاط، وإن احتياجاته كلها بيتم تلبيتها من خلال الأنشطة المختلفة.
So to repeat myself, and I'm sorry for that, but it's important to be very thorough. We have the teacher leading online discussion, and then the class begins their tasks. The teacher meets with those students individually and in small groups. He or she is gathering data about what's happening in this classroom. Maybe they give new instructions. And then, of course, they let the kids work on their tasks and come back to another group. So there's a lot going on in terms of online teaching. It's actually harder than teaching in person. So let's translate that and go on to the larger picture.
فبالمختصر إنه في التعليم عن بعد المدرس بيقوم بنفس الدور، وهو إنه هو بيشرح أو وبيقود النقاش ما بين الطلبة، بيقسم الطلبة لمجموعات أو الطلبة بيكونوا بيشتغلوا في مجموعات، بيتم مقابلة مع كل طالب لوحده علشان الطالب يعرف بالظبط إيه اللي محتاج يشتغل عليه أكتر أو إيه اللي هو وصل له، يبقى في مناقشة. وبيجمع المدرس برضه بيجمع أدلة لفهم الطلبة ومستوى فهمهم، وده هو بيكون دور المدرس، وده بيكون حتى أصعب من إن المدرس يكون في فصل وبيقوم بده كله في نفس الوقت.
Students will have all their subjects taught. So PE is not neglected, it's crucial for their development. Music, French, Arabic, obviously, visual arts, and other subjects. These are all taught according to the program, to the schedule. So your student will have a lot of action, a lot of engagement with their teachers, and they'll be busy throughout the day.
كل المواد بيتم تدريسها من خلال التعلم عن بعد، مش هيتم تجاهل أي مادة، سواء هي تربية رياضية أو PSPE، سواء عربي، فرنساوي، أيا كانت المادة بيتم تدريسها عن بعد.
So the school will run at normal time, and then you have all these subjects going on, and so of course your student will have break times and they will have lunch times, which unfortunately we're not able to supervise that from online, but certainly you'll have those responsibilities at home.
الحصص هتبدأ اللي هي التعلم عن بعد أو الأونلاين هتبدأ في نفس وقت المدرسة العادي. اليوم هيمشي مظبوط، هيكون فيه برضه نفس الأوقات بتاعة الراحة، بس الاختلاف هو إن في وقت الراحة إحنا مع الأسف مش هنقدر إن إحنا بالإشراف على الأطفال، ودي هتكون مهمة أولياء الأمور في البيت.
A big responsibility on our end is to make sure you have the supplies at home to make sure that our instruction is effective. So there'll be a delivery service, a pickup and or delivery, depending what works for best for everybody, of library books, level readers, stories on the reading level, or to meet the needs of the students. So if you're an early years 1 or early years 2 parent, you'll have books coming to you from the school's library, and those are books that we recommend that you read your students to teach an idea or a theme or to address some sort of a social or emotional well-being issue. If you're in grade 1, of course, your students will probably start reading at least by grade 1. And so they will also have their own reading series, and that'll be provided by the school as well.
في مسؤولية كبيرة هتبقى علينا، وهي موارد التعلم وإيه مصادر الأطفال هيستخدموها. فالنقطة دي لو في أي مصادر تعلم أو موارد تعلم الطلبة هيحتاجوا إن هم يستعملوها، هيتم توصيلها لحد البيت، سواء كانت كتب قراءة على مستويات مختلفة، وده يا إما الطالب اللي هيقوم بقرايتها يا إما القراية عن طريق أولياء الأمور علشان مراعاة الصحة النفسية والاجتماعية للطفل، وإنه يبقى فيه تعاون وتعامل ما بين أولياء الأمور وما بين الطالب.
Subjects that are inside the inquiry, like science and mathematics, they'll require some experimentation at home. So if there are manipulatives or dye or something that's needed to conduct an experiment at home, those things will be provided by the school as well.
برضو المواد اللي في وحدة البحث اللي بتحتاج مصادر تعلم مختلفة هيتم توصيل مصادر التعلم دي للبيت، سواء كانت ألعاب تعليمية أو أيا كانت هي نوعية المصادر.
Visual arts obviously are something where kids are manipulating paper or scissors, glue, whatever they may be doing. Again, we'll have a pickup or delivery service for art supplies for the teaching of that subject as well.
لو في أي مصادر الطلبة هيكونوا محتاجينها للفنون أو للرسم، برضو هيتم توصيلها للبيت.
Good. So essentially, you will have a lot of materials from the school to help you at home and to help develop your student. And so it's not just someone talking through a screen like I'm doing right now, sadly, or wonderfully, but there will also be materials coming to home and then back to school and so forth. So this is one way we will be able to collect evidence from your students as well. If they've done an art project, we need that for the portfolio, then that comes back to the school. We can assess it more easily there, maybe doing some assessment online as well, but we really want to gather that evidence to show their growth.
وزي ما ذكرنا هيتم توفير المصادر التعلم المختلفة، ومش هيكون بس مجرد ان المدرس بيتكلم عن طريق الشاشة، هيكون في تعاون ما بين الطلبة وتعاون بين الطلبة واستخدام لمصادر تعلم متعددة، وده عشان برضو فكرة جمع الأدلة وإن يبقى في دليل إن الطالب اتعلم النقطة دي. فلو هي أي نوع من أنواع الأدلة إن الطالب أو عملها في البيت هيتم توصيلها للمدرسة علشان توصل للمدرس ويقدر يقيمها بشكل أفضل.
We have a special focus in the library through primary years program. So the library will be very active during the week to provide reading time. So we'll have story time for students from the librarian, live per grade level. And we'll also have puppet shows that we're able to show your kids, which should hopefully fit into the unit of inquiry and or help them develop socially, emotionally, and psychologically.
برضه دور المكتبة هيكون مستمر زي ما هو من خلال التعلم عن بعد. هيكون في توفير حصص لقراءة قصص للأطفال، هيكون في عروض عرائس برضه عن بعد، وده لخدمة وحدة البحث أكيد هتكون مرتبطة بيها، وبرضه علشان الصحة النفسية والاجتماعية للطالب.
We will be able to, as teaching staff, to have online video conferencing with parents. And so those will be regularly scheduled and can happen as little as every 2 weeks that you can have a dedicated session. If you need more, of course, we can schedule that and manage those parent-teacher conferences that way.
برضه فكرة الاجتماعات ما بين المدرسين وأولياء الأمور هتكون مستمرة، ودي هتكون بمواعيد، في مواعيد هتكون موجودة وبتتكرر بشكل دوري، وفي مواعيد لو ولي الأمر محتاج أي اجتماع زيادة هيقوم إن هو هيطلب الاجتماع ده وهيتم تحديد الميعاد ويتم الاجتماع بينه وبين المدرس.
Nesma Hassan, who is sitting right here on my right side, and Marie Rayburn, who's our head of primary, will be available at least once a week in an open discussion online, a coffee morning, so to speak, for any parent who would like to communicate, either as an individual or in a group. And so we have a lot of facilities and scheduled events to make sure that we're all communicating clearly and we're working together.
يكون في مقابلات أسبوعية ما بيني ككوردينيتور وما بين الهيد مس ماري، وده هيتم بشكل أسبوعي، ممكن يكون في مجموعات وممكن يكون بشكل منفرد.
Okay, so this gives you a little insight into online teaching from Uptown International School in the event that is needed. I believe that as rational thinking human beings dealing with a moment with a pandemic, which has killed a lot of people, that we need to be aware that it is very likely we will have some months of online teaching in the school, probably, and I hope, interspersed with longer periods when we don't need online teaching and we can be in the regular facility. So I hope that answers people's questions. And if you need clarification or if you have any questions pertaining to the health crisis that we're in right now, go ahead and email us a question through Facebook Live or through Zoom.
وطبعا بالنسبة للوضع اللي احنا فيه وفكرة وجود فيروس وكورونا، هيكون في احنا متوقعين ان يكون في شهور من التعلم عن بعد، وده ممكن يكون في فترات طويلة احنا بنروح فيها المدرسة عادي، أو فترات تانية بنحتاج فيها يكون في تعليم عن بعد، وده طبعا بناء على الحالة اللي هتبقى موجودة في البلد. ولو في أي توضيح حضراتكم محتاجينه ممكن تبعتوا لنا أسئلتكم على فيسبوك لايف أو على زوم.
When we will be teaching in the building and with our students in the classroom, we are already in conversations with medical organizations to understand how we can make the environment as safe as possible. So those will include some sort of sanitation spray when kids are entering the school. We'll also be checking temperatures of all staff and all students as they enter the building. So that includes everyone from a housekeeper to a bus driver to me, the director, or even a board member. So everyone has their temperature taken and everyone goes through sanitation processes.
لما يكون التعليم بيتم في المدرسة نفسها أكيد هيتم التواصل مع أطباء ومؤسسات طبية علشان نتأكد إن البيئة المدرسية مناسبة للطلبة وتكون آمنة، وهيتم جزء منها هيتم قياس درجة الحرارة لكل العاملين وطبعا وللطلبة، وكل الناس هيتم قياس درجة الحرارة وهيتم التعقيم بشكل مستمر. Hand
sanitizer will be available in all teaching spaces as well as in the hallways.
معقم اليد هيكون متوفر في كل الفصول وفي أي حتة في المدرسة.
Most staff will be wearing face masks, if not all staff.
معظم العاملين هيكونوا لابسين كمامات طبعا علشان الوقاية.
There will be regularly scheduled hand washings for all students and staff.
هيكون في مواعيد منتظمة لغسل الإيد سواء للطلبة أو للعاملين.
All school spaces where students may or may not be will be sanitized at least once a day.
كل الأماكن اللي موجودة في المدرسة هيتم تعقيمها على الأقل مرة في اليوم سواء الأطفال استخدموها أو ما استخدموهاش.
So as we continue to consult with our medical professionals, we're continuing developing policy which will be implemented.
هيتم تطبيق أفكار معينة في المدرسة بناء على اقتراحات المؤسسات الطبية اللي هيتم استشارتها.
Are there any more points from you? No? No? All right, so we've covered health and safety as far as we can at the school and online teaching in the event that we have to do it. So that gives you something to think about, but also may generate some questions or need for clarity. So please send us those questions online or through Zoom. Before we go on to other challenges of international teaching, I've got 2 questions that have been sent to us. I'm sorry to take off my glasses because I can't see if I'm trying to read something. So Mohammed writes, one of the most common reasons for learning difficulties is the lack of interaction between students and their teachers. How do we overcome the challenge of online learning? This is a great question. The way we teach in the IB Primary Years program is that we're really paying a lot of attention to the individual, and we call that differentiation, and we've covered that, I believe last week, but if not, it was the week before that. So through this, what we call formative assessment, we really meet the individual needs of our kids as best we can. So during the online teaching, you have individual sessions between student and teacher, so they understand what they're understanding and what they're not understanding. And through that, we meet their needs through what we call differentiation. So we change what we're teaching or how we're teaching to try to reach that standard or that goal or whatever we're trying to get accomplished there. If we have kids with stronger needs who are having some emotional difficulties, we have a special educational needs coordinator and counselor, and that person will also be available online to help negotiate those issues and solve them. It's really not an easy question to answer, although it's a damn good question. And it's just because it's so individualized. And so if a kid doesn't understand math as well, of course, we give more individualized instruction. If a student has a disability, depending on the disability, we approach that as needed. So dyspraxia or dyslexia, something of that nature, we will meet those needs individually through the special educational needs coordinator telling us how we need to meet that need. There's a professional person trained to train us in terms of how we deal with this situation. I hope that answers your question. It's a good question, but a little bit challenging.
Okay, I just want to take a look at the question again. Learning difficulties is loss of interaction. هو السؤال عن ازاي بيتم تلبية الفروق الفردية وصعوبات التعلم، ولأن صعوبات التعلم بتحتاج يبقى فيه تعاون وجه لوجه ما بين المدرس وما بين الطالب، فازاي هيتم تلبية الاحتياجات دي من خلال التعلم عن بعد. هو جزء من عملية التعلم في برنامج السنوات الابتدائية في الاي بي هو مراعاة الفروق الفردية ومراعاة ان الطالب هو فرد مختلف عن الآخرين. واكيد ده بيتم من خلال الشرح ومن خلال التقييم، واكيد التقييم التكويني هو جزء من عملية التمييز. في التمييز بيتم مراعاة ان احتياجات الطلبة، الاحتياجات المختلفة بيتم تلبيتها سواء من خلال حصص فردية، وده هيتم في التعلم عن بعد. الحصص الفردية عشان التأكد من ان الطالب وصل له المعلومة او وصل للمفهوم اللي المفروض يوصل له من خلال النشاط، والمدرس بيقدر ان هو يزود جزء في الشرح او يتأكد من وصول مفهوم معين، وبيتم تعديل العملية التعليمية او تعديل الأنشطة اللي بيتم توفيرها للطلبة بحسب الفروق الفردية والطلبة المختلفين في الفصل. في برضو منسق للاحتياجات الخاصة أو لصعوبات التعلم، هو هيكون مسؤول عن إنه هو يفيد المدرسين في تعليم الطلبة ذوي الاحتياجات الخاصة أو صعوبات التعلم أو اللي محتاجين معاملة أو شرح خاص.
Good. Thank you, Mohammed. And again, if we need clarification for our answer, just send me back a message and tell me what I need to clarify. We have another question that has nothing to do with any of these topics, but we're happy to try to answer it. Good afternoon. Here's my question. What is the difference between Category 1, Category 2, and Category 3 in the role of the librarian course? Thank you, Janine. coming from our librarian, ironically. That's a good question. I don't know. I know that for a long time, there was only a Category 3 workshop for librarians called the Role of the Librarian. I'm not aware there is a Category 1 or Category 2 workshop. I don't know what those would be. My assumption, being a workshop leader myself, is that a Category 1 workshop would be for a person who's new to library, and you working in library in an IB program. And Category 2, of course, would be someone who has experience in working in library. That's all I know, and that's it. Depth of experience and knowledge. But I actually think only the Category 3 exists. And what's interesting and sad about that is the Category 3 Role of the Librarian workshop usually is for IB diploma teachers. And because the library is so central to the diploma specifically, and a lot of schools ignore the importance of the library for primary and middle school. But yeah, that's all I can tell you. If there's any other question about that, do let me know. Let's go back and see if we have any questions right now. Our last question was from Mohammed about special needs. So we're free to move on to the next challenge facing international education. So Nesma, what do you think what's the challenges facing international education? Can you think of one?
Yeah, I think it's going to be like from a parent's perspective, it's going to be having the child there all the time while they have work to do, and the amount of supervision they need to provide for their children, and to what extent they're going to be involved in the learning process. So I just want to highlight that like we have to have independent students, and they have to learn to be independent, especially in the learning process, and with the focus on agency and having ownership of their own learning. So parents, if they're going to have a role in the learning process, it's going to be only supervising that their child's following with the lessons. They know exactly what they're doing. If there are any materials that are going to be used from home, so like any kind of resources, if they're using pasta, for example, to make shapes for creativity or thinking skills. So they will provide these materials that are going to be very simple and found in any.
So a bit more on online education, and we've heard several questions about parents concerned about how much supervision time they have to give their students. Of course, you're a parent and you know you have to supervise your kid, but it's our job to make sure that we provide the materials and the student to be engaged, and not be harassing everybody else in the house. Question does not relate to international crises, but we're glad to take it. Do you need Arabic social studies? That is no. Our school opened up early years 1, which are 3-year-old children, through grade 3 for next year. We began teaching in accordance with the Ministry of Education requirements, Arabic social studies starting in grade 4. We will have grade 4 in the 21-22 school year. So if this is about seeking a job, then contact us when we list that position later this autumn, November, December period of time. Thank you for your question. Let's check and see if we have any questions on Zoom.
I just would like to translate the part for parent supervision.
Okay.
بس عندي كان سألني في اعتقادي ايه هو هيكون اصعب حاجه في موضوع التعلم عن بعد، فانا قلت من وجهه نظر الاهل هو نسبه الاشراف اللي هتبقى منهم على اولادهم وهم موجودين في البيت. بس انا باكد ان احنا محتاجين الطلبه يكونوا مستقلين وليهم دور في عمليتهم التعليميه، مش مجرد متلقي سواء من المدرس او من الاهل. فهيكون اولياء الامور منحصر في ان هم يتاكدوا ان الطالب بيحضر الحصص الموجوده الالكترونيه، ان هو عارف بالظبط بيعمل ايه. لو في اي خامات محتاج ان هو تتوفر في البيت، ويكون خامات بسيطه زي مثلا مكرونه او اي حاجه تكون موجوده في اي بيت، ان هم يوفروها لاطفالهم. فده هيكون دور اولياء الامور.
So there are other challenges to international education on the coronavirus, and I forget how many years. I think I've been teaching for in schools for 27 or 28 years. And so one of the crises I think we're having, or a challenge, is finding qualified teachers. We've been aware as international educators for several years that there's a lot of new schools that operate as businesses, including ours, and especially in China, in Qatar, in the Emirates, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, but also in Central Asia, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and so forth. So we have a lot of new schools, and that's really putting a big demand on teaching staff. For marketing purposes or for training purposes or for whatever purposes, a lot of schools would like people from Britain or Canada, the United States, and things of this nature. And so what it has meant is that a lot of teachers who are leaving the US for the first time, they want to go to China because it pays so much better than other schools elsewhere, especially in Europe, interestingly. So we really have had a challenge internationally of finding teachers who are qualified because qualified teachers are already employed. And such a shortage in international schools of teachers that people who are not qualified are being offered jobs. So let Nesma translate that, and then we'll talk about what we mean by qualifications.
هو فأنتي بذكر النقاط الأخرى في التعلم عن بعد أو في العملية التعليمية عامة، وهي وجود مدرسين مؤهلين، لأن في كمية لسه في طبعا بلدان العالم مختلفة، وفي احتياج أكتر للمدرسين، والمدرسين اللي بيكونوا من أمريكا أو بريطانيا بيحبوا إن هم أكتر يروحوا للصين علشان الرواتب هناك بتكون أعلى. ففكرة وجود مدرسين مؤهلين بتكون صعبة، لأن المؤهلين بيكونوا الطلب عليهم أكتر وبيكونوا بيشتغلوا في أماكنهم، فبيكون في قصور في المدرسين المؤهلين.
So qualifications often vary country, but they can be somehow similar. So in Egypt, for example, a foreign teacher must have a degree in English language to teach primary school, or it must be in primary or elementary education, a bachelor's degree. That's the government requirement. For us, they also need to be a qualified teacher and or have certified IB experience. So there's the national qualification, then the schools themselves put some other conditions on that. So this gives you an idea. In Egypt, an Egyptian national must have a degree in English or have a degree in primary or elementary education or early childhood education. Correct me if I'm wrong at any point. Go ahead and translate that and we'll go to the next part.
فكرة إن المدرس يكون مؤهل بتختلف الدرجة العلمية من بلد لبلد. فمثلا في مصر المدرس الأجنبي محتاج يكون عنده درجة علمية في الإنجليزي أو في تعليم الابتدائي أو تعليم الأطفال، وبرضو مدرس المصري محتاج يكون عنده نفس المؤهل، إنه هو يكون عنده درجة علمية في اللغة الإنجليزية في التعليم الابتدائي أو تعليم الأطفال. بالنسبة لنا إحنا أكيد المؤهلات دي مطلوبة، لأن هي دي المؤهلات المطلوبة من التربية والتعليم، بس برضو بنضيف عليها إن المدرس عنده خبرة في نظام البكالوريا الدولية وإن هو درسها قبل كده.
So we look for the qualifications. If we cannot get the qualifications, then we won't hire anybody. That's as clear as it is. Otherwise, we're breaking the law, but also our own policies, and we're a very policy-oriented school.
لو المدرس ما عندوش المؤهلات دي، سواء المؤهل العلمي المطلوب من الوزارة أو فكرة إن هو يبقى عنده فهم لنظام البكالوريا الدولية، فهو مش هيتم تعيينه، لأن إحنا إحنا ماشيين حسب النظام اللي المفروض يكون موجود من وزارة التربية والتعليم، النظام المحطوط من المدرسة نفسها.
There's also the issue of work permits and resident visas. They're not available to all nationals of any country around the world, only certain ones. So we don't invite teachers here who we simply cannot get a work or a residency permit for.
برضو في مشكلة في الإقامة وتصاريح العمل بالنسبة لمدرسين معينين أو جنسيات معينة. احنا برضو ماشيين على تعليمات الوزارة، وأي جنسية ما ينفعش أو في مشكلة في وجود إقامة أو تصريح عمل ليها احنا بيتم إن احنا نبعد عنها، وماشيين بالظبط حسب تعليمات الوزارة.
If you are looking for a school, an international school, anywhere in the world, Egypt or Mongolia or China, you really should ask as a parent, what are the qualifications of your teachers? Can I see a copy of your hiring policy that tells us who you're looking for and what their qualifications are? There are a lot of people in many schools here in Egypt who are not qualified by our standards or the Ministry of Education. They've chosen a different way, and that's not the way we've chosen. So again, we have a shortage of international teachers generally that are available around the world, and schools are going to find those qualified staff members.
لو حضراتكم بتقدموا لأولادكم في أي مدرسة دولية لازم تسألوا عن مؤهلات المدرسين وعن نظام التعيين في المدرسة، لأن ده جزء مهم جدا. وفكرة إن وجود قصور في أعداد المدرسين الدوليين بتخلي بعض المدارس إنها ما تمشيش على تعليمات الوزارة أو ما تمشيش على فكرة المدرس يكون مؤهل لتدريس المرحلة العمرية دي. فالمفروض إن ولي الأمر يكون فاهم النقطة دي وعلى دراية بالمؤهلات اللي موجودة في المدرسة.
Our approach to hiring a staff member is we don't really care about their nationality unless we can't get them a work permit. But otherwise, we are very open to anyone from any nationality as long as they're qualified to teach.
إحنا كمدرسة مش بنركز في الجنسيات أو بنشوف إن في جنسيات ما ينفعش إن إحنا نعينها. إحنا كل الجنسيات بالنسبة لنا واحد، أهم حاجة هو إن المدرس يكون مؤهل، إلا لو في مشكلة مع الجنسية دي في الإقامة أو في تصريح العمل، هي دي بتكون المشكلة الوحيدة. غير كده أهم حاجة عندنا هي إن المدرس يكون مؤهل.
If you have any questions about qualifications of teacher training, what makes a teacher qualified, please ask that question today or email us at any time, and I'll be glad to clarify. But you as a parent, if you are a parent, should really ask those questions. If you're putting your kid in school, what are the teacher qualifications? You might, I don't know if it's allowed, but maybe you can get a copy of their CV. But it's important that you have a qualified teacher. This is about your kid's education. And it's more than just information being conveyed. It's about how to teach your kid and how to be prepared for their social, emotional, and psychological well-being, how to work in the IB system. The IB system is challenging for a new teacher with no experience, but it also is challenging for people qualified. So keep that in mind, please.
لو في أي أسئلة تانية ممكن حضرتك تبعتوها على لايف أو على زوم. وبرضو احنا بنأكد ان لو حضراتكم بتقدموا في اي مدرسة دولية محتاجين تسألوا عن مؤهلات المدرسين، ولو مسموح بان انتوا يكون معاكم نسخة من السيرة الذاتية للمدرس او ان انتوا تطلعوا عليها علشان تعرفوا هل المدرس ده يقدر ان هو يدرس المرحلة العمرية دي، هل هو مؤهل ان هو يدرس في العموم، هل هو على دراية بالصحة النفسية والاجتماعية للطفل ولا لا. واكيد لو مدرسة بتتبع نظام البكالوريا الدولية فالمدرس ده قادر ان هو يدرس نظام البكالوريا الدولية ولا لا.
Thank you. Again, we look forward to any questions or clarifications you need. We have about 13 minutes left. We've got two good questions from Minat Allah, and I apologize if I've mutilated your name. So the first question we'll deal with, and we'll go to the second question. Most kids are not into traditional method learning. Do you incorporate gamification in your teaching methods? The question, first of all, traditional teaching methods are not happening in this school. We do not have kids sitting in rows. We don't have the teacher as the fountain of all wisdom. We do not have little vessels to fill with useless information. Kids are engaged, they are active, they have flexible seating in the classroom, They're learning from centers, they're learning from each other. Their instruction is differentiated to meet all of their needs. We believe in positive discipline. We don't throw kids in the hallway, and we certainly don't beat anyone. So we really approach it in the most recent research-based approaches to teaching and learning. That's the first thing. So let Nesma translate, then we'll go to gamification.
السؤال هو عن ان في اطفال ما بيفضلوش او ما بيحبوش طبعا طرق التعلم التقليديه، فهل احنا بيتم تعليم بطرق مختلفه حديثه، وهل بيتم او بيكون في وجود للعب في التعليم؟ فاكيد احنا فكره ان استخدام طرق التعلم التقليديه دي مش موجوده عندنا خالص. الاطفال ليهم دور في العمليه التعليميه في اركان تعلم وانشطه مختلفه، بيبتدوا يتعلموا في مجموعات، بنستخدم تمييز ومراعاه للفروق الفرديه وتلبيه الاحتياجات الفرديه للطلبه، بنستخدم التربيه الايجابيه ومؤمنين بالاختلافات ما بين الطلبه.
Good. The second part of your question was gamification. That's a complicated word, but I'll try to break it down for everybody. The idea is that we teach through games, or we teach through online video games, for example, or even games that are created by the students or by the teacher, or even a traditional game in the classroom, like a board game or a card game. The answer to your question is that all tools are utilized in the teaching and learning of students, even playing games. So if we have a unit on invention, and so kids can invent a game, or they can improve or invent a new physical education game. There is a value in some online games in terms of teaching and learning, but we approach technology very cautiously, and we limit the amount of screen time children receive. So yes, we use games to teach. Kids even invent their own game, and so forth and so on. But if it's online, we're aware there's value there, but we are very cautious about how we use it.
بالنسبة للتعلم عن طريق اللعب عامة أو عن طريق الألعاب الإلكترونية، فإحنا مؤمنين بأن كل الأدوات يجب استخدامها في التعليم. ولو مثلا بنتكلم عن وحدة بحث فيها الاختراعات، فالطلبة بيقوموا إنهم يخترعوا لعبة جديدة، ده بيبقى جزء من عملية التعليم والتعلم. احنا مؤمنين ان في العاب الكترونيه مفيده في العمليه التعليميه، بس برضو احنا مؤمنين بان استخدام شبكه الانترنت لازم يكون محدود، وان الطلبه مش لازم انهم يسيبوا الشاشات او الانترنت لمده طويله.
Manala, your second question is excellent, just like the first one. I want my kids to have high quality international education, and I want to preserve their identities as being Egyptians. Do you emphasize the importance of teaching Egyptian history and Arabic? The first thing is you should take a look at our mission statement, which is on our website, uisegypt.com. We're very clear that we are aware and value the fact that we are in Egypt. And so we understand that our kids are not to be made into Americans or Canadians or British kids. They are mostly Egyptians. And Egypt itself has a huge amount of information and history and culture to inform our kids and develop them as well. So we want them to leave the school perfectly fluent in Arabic and in English, both, but separate, not this mishmash of language that we expect these days in some schools. So that's important to their identity, but also important for the job market and for getting into university. So we want them to be confident in their language, confident in their history, and confident in the context of Egypt. They're not Americans. They're not Eskimos from God knows where. They are Egyptians, and they should be proud of that, and they should have their lessons informed by that as well. I know that Nesma needs to translate this, but I will continue briefly and say that we have 56 lessons in a 7-day cycle. That's how we teach, in cycles, not by week, not by month. So it's every 7 days the cycle starts again. But in a 7-day cycle, we have 10 lessons of Arabic. So that is more than any school I'm aware of, and it goes beyond the requirements of the Ministry of Education. On top of that, our Arabic teachers are all IB trained and qualified and experienced as well. So they understand what's required by the ministry and also what's required by the IB, and they're able to integrate the two, which is a challenge.
السؤال بيقول إن هي وتحب إن هي تحافظ على المستوى عالي من التعليم لأولادها وفي نفس الوقت تحافظ على هويتهم. فمستر أندي كان بيقول إن هي على مهمة المدرسة وقد إيه إحنا مؤمنين بإن الطلبة كمصريين ليهم هوية معينة ومفروض إن إحنا نحافظ عليها، مش بنعملهم على إنهم أمريكان أو بريطانيين، إحنا بنعملهم على إنهم مصريين ليهم هوية محددة لازم نحافظ عليها. بنساعدهم إنهم يقدروا إنهم يستخدموا اللغة العربية الفصحى بشكل مظبوط واللغة الإنجليزية بشكل مظبوط، بس كل منهم على حدة، مش استخدام العربي والإنجليزي في جملة واحدة. هو إنه يقدر يتكلم باللغة العربية لفترة طويلة واللغة الإنجليزية كذلك. لازم يكونوا واثقين من نفسهم وهم بيستخدموا أي من اللغتين، وإن إحنا بنشجعهم إنهم يحافظوا على هويتهم وثقافتهم. إحنا هيكون عندنا 56 حصة في 7 أيام. 10 حصص من ال 56 حصة دول هيكونوا حصص لغة عربية، وده أكثر من مدارس كتير وأكثر كمان من متطلبات الوزارة. وإحنا عيننا مدرسين لغة عربية كفء عارفين كويس جدا نظام البكالوريا الدولية، لغتهم العربية الفصحى قوية جدا، ويقدروا إنهم يدمجوا منهج الوزارة مع خطط البحث أو وحدات البحث في نظام البكالوريا الدولية في المرحلة الابتدائية.
As Egyptian nationals, our students are required by the IB and by the Egyptian government to take IB diploma level Arabic literature, a challenging course. So because we know what they need to do in grades 11 and 12 with regards to Arabic, we know we must teach them from the beginning proper, correct Arabic in an IB context.
كطلبة مصريين هم مطالبين بأنهم يتعلموا اللغة العربية وياخدوا مادة معينة أو مادة اللغة العربية في المرحلة الثانوية، وهي مادة صعبة. فإحنا مؤمنين إن إحنا لازم نبتدي عملية تعليم اللغة العربية من السنوات الأولى بحيث إن اللغة العربية عندهم تكون قوية ويقدروا إنهم ياخدوا المادة دي وما تكونش صعبة بالنسبة لهم.
Thank you for that question. If we didn't clarify it, then please email us back or send us a message. We'll try to get to the meat of the matter. We have a question from Amal, and she writes, my kids are in the British system, and would it be easy for them to transfer from British to IB? We only go up to grade 3 next year and grades 4 and 5 in 2022. If you're moving from a British primary system and going into an IB PYP system, the transition is no problem whatsoever. Okay, I hope that answers your question. Your kids will thrive in the IB, in fact. It's much easier for kids to come into IB. It's a little harder for them to leave it. So we can talk about that more if you'd like to call us or schedule an appointment, but for the most part, your kids will have no issue whatsoever. Rahab has a great question. It's going to be very hard for us to answer, but thank you for sending it. Most of the current educational systems suffer from a defect in communicating societal, moral, or sometimes religious standards. How can we currently, through an advanced educational system, to deliver the right standards for our children? The word standards for us in an education context stands for what do we teach and learn in each grade level. So that for us, although we're a primary years program school, we teach to American Common Core standards. So it gives us an idea of what to meet. In terms of moral, societal, and religious standards, the only thing I can do right now is direct you to our website and to our mission, vision, and values page. I would suggest that you read that, and then if you have questions about what we're doing or how we're doing it, contact me and through the website, and then I'll be glad to answer that yourself with you directly. or you can come in, of course, and we can talk in the office, or even by Skype. But just, it's hard to answer that question, but I would suggest you read the mission, vision, and values page, which gives you an idea of who we really are and what we believe in. Thank you for that great question. Please do.
هو السؤال بيقول إن معظم النظم التعليمية دلوقتي بتتجاهل أخلاقيات وقيم المجتمع والقيم الدينية، فإزاي إحنا نقدر إن إحنا نوازن ما بين الأخلاقيات المجتمعية والقيم الدينية وما بين المعايير اللي إحنا بنطبقها. فمستر إندي كان بيقول إن المعايير التعليمية المعايير بالنسبة لنا هي معايير تعليمية، يعني إحنا لما نمشي على المعايير الأمريكية فهي مجرد بتوجهنا في عمليات التعليم والتعلم وإيه اللي المفروض الطفل يكون عارفه أو الطالب يكون عارفه في آخر كل مرحلة تعليمية. أما بالنسبة للقيم المجتمعية والدينية فدي بتتمثل في رؤية المدرسة والمهمة بتاعت المدرسة وقيم المدرسة، ودول موجودين على الموقع بتاع المدرسة لو حضرتك تحبي تطلع عليه أو أي حد يحب يطلع عليهم، ونقدر إن إحنا نناقش الموضوع ده أكتر بناء عليه.
Miriam asks us, do we hire for administrative positions? You can look at our open positions at uisegypt.com under careers. That'll give you some information. Amal gives a statement that her children are next year in 4 or 6. Amal, if you're coming from a British system, there's a confusion between year and grade. So what's more important to us is to know their age by October 1st. If you could please call the hotline for the admissions people, they'll answer the phone and you can work out if we have grades for them or not. If year and grade are the same thing in the British system, which in Egypt they often are, but they're not in the Britain, it's a complication. Then there will be an issue. So just please call the hotline number. It's 19216. Thank you so much. We have about 30 more seconds if there's any further questions. We tried to talk about challenges in international education today. We talked extensively about challenges in teaching and learning during the coronavirus period, which is going to be with us for some time. And we talk about the challenges for schools in finding qualified staff and a little bit about how we manage that process. So we probably could have a whole nother series on challenges in international education because it would be like psychological therapy for me and maybe for you too. All right, so we don't have any further questions. I really appreciate you participating today. We'll have another session in a week or two and look forward to that announcement. In the meantime, if you have any other questions, you can email us at UIS on the website. So uisegypt.com and you'll find the information email. Really thank you for coming in today and chatting with us, and we really enjoyed it. You okay? All right. Thank you so much. See you soon.